Hi, my name is Rob Vanderlinden. For my Week 7 assignment, I did the case study on Fabia versus Indiana University of Pennsylvania. It was found in Chapter 8, Case Study 8.2 of our textbook. The plaintiffs and the defendants. The plaintiffs in the case was Dawn Fabia, Wendy Schalemeyer, Kim DeCamo, and Amy Fahler. The defendants in the case was Indiana University of Pennsylvania. The case background. Indiana University of Pennsylvania is a university that is state and federally funded and is subject to mandates of Title IX. In 1990, the school population consisted of a little under 11,000 students and was broken down to 56% of them being female and 44% male. The school had 9 male sports and 9 female sports, all taking part as part of the NCAA. Of the athletes playing the sports, 62% of the athletes were male and 38% were female. The scholarship money was broken down unevenly also, weighed heavily on the male side. 79% of all the money for scholarships went to male athletes, while 21% was awarded to female athletes. In 1991, Indiana University of Pennsylvania faced budget cuts. The athletic department needed to cut $350,000 from their budget. A committee was formed and it was led by the athletic director at the university. And the committee came to a conclusion that 2 male sports and 2 female sports were to be cut, leaving the number of the gender related sports equal of 7 each. After the cuts, the percentage of male athletes went up though, and the female athletes went down. The plaintiffs in the case there were 4 young ladies. They were members of the team, of the gymnastics team and the field hockey team, 2 of each, and they were the sports that got cut. The plaintiffs filed a class action lawsuit alleging discrimination because of their gender. They were wanting the 2 teams to be reinstated and prohibit the defendants from eliminating any more of the female sports. The defendants in the case, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, the committee was put together and again led by the athletic director. He recommended the cuts for both men's and women's to keep the number of sports the same and complying with Title IX. The sports that were cut were sports that were declining in participation nationally and were no longer viable to the university. The court considered 3 different factors when ruling on the case. 1, whether the intercollegiate level of participation opportunities for men and women were proportionate to their enrollments. The court found that the school was already not following Title IX rules, and these cuts only added to the violations. The second thing they considered was whether the school had been underrepresenting the women's program, and did they show a history of practicing the expansion of female participation. Once again, the court found that the school was not providing the expansion of women's athletics before the court case, and these cuts just added to the violation. The court also found out that the expenditures of women's sports were $2.75 for every female athlete and $8 for every male athlete. The third thing that the court considered was very much like number 2, but it had to show that the school was trying to expand the women's sports program. Again, the court found that the school was not trying to expand the women's sport program. In other words, they were cutting it. The school also promised to change the women's soccer, which at that time was a club sport, to an NCAA sport, but the court said that they cannot rule on promises. The impact that this court case had on today affects many of the schools in many different ways. And it's more than just trying to make the same amount of sports, or make the sports the same number of sports from male to female. An athletic director needs to be aware of the student population and make sure that it is equal number of participants based on gender equality. An athletic director also needs to make sure that the equal amount of dollars are spent on each gender. The athletic director also needs to provide opportunities for women if there is an interest in that sport. The school in this case could have started the women's sports program at the varsity level and chose to keep it a club sport. When it comes to budget cuts, all decisions are tough for the administration. In this case, the school already was in a lot of violations with Title IX, but the cuts made it worse. An athletic director needs to be aware of all the laws before he or she makes any decisions.